Welcome to another episode of the Speak the Language podcast. We are in the summer episodes, and usually what we do during the summer, since there's not really much hunting season going on, is we try to bring in some off-the-wall, interesting guests, people that have, people that are just interesting people that y'all would want to hear from. And we couldn't really find that this week, so we got stuck with the Brothers Hunt.
Appreciate you, Lane.
Dude, I'm already looking forward to this.
You thought I was about to set you up good, huh?
No, I kind of figured it would go.
I thought it was coming.
I kind of figured it'd go that way.
Put the sucker punch in there somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it got to.
You gotta watch the Mississippi boys, man.
You got to keep a tight eye on them. So this, I've been trying to get a podcast episode with y'all for since last summer sometime.
Yeah, a year. I would say a good year. Dude.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, but we started to do it we're going to do it in person, and then deer season hit, and then turkey season hit, and then NWTF. We saw him at NWTF, and he was like, "Dude, can we do it here?" And we're like, "Yeah." And then COVID happened, and it just never lined up, man. And I apologize.
Not only that, those booths y'all had at the NWTF, the podcast booths,
bro.
Golly.
Trash. Dude.
Welcome to the NWTF.
Now let's just set it up. This is how it would go. It'd be like, okay, who's the guest we had on? What was that turkey caller? That was awesome.
It was Grossenbach, wasn't it? Grossenbacher. That's it.
Grossenbacher. So he was like, we would be like, okay, man, walk us through. And we all know the turkey calls, but we were like, walk us through the initial calls just because we wanted to hear him do them. And he'd be like,
because he's good.
He'd be like, all right, here's a tree up. And be like, get ready.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you'd make your way down to booth 5 tonight, we've got a special prize for the 5th contestant. We'd be like, okay, hold on, Josh. Time out.
I mean, it was impossible.
You better get down here quick because they're going fast.
All right, we're wrapping off a shotgun.
I was initially aggravated because something happened. We had a miscommunication. We were supposed to have a podcast booth like that. And then I saw where they had them, and I was like, that's not going to work at all for anybody.
No, sir.
Yeah, and we were very blessed to have the booth there, and we met some, interesting people, but it was just very, we actually talked to the guy with the speaker, and we were like, hey, man, can you keep it down? We're like, tell us when you're going to do it.
Just give us a signal so we know we've got 22 minutes before you go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I recorded one podcast in one of those booths with my buddies from the Hunting Public because they had a booth right there. And it's the same thing. We got interrupted 3 times in one podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, the NWTF show will kick off in 7 minutes.
Yeah, impossible.
So anyhow.
Are you sweating like crazy down there in Mississippi right now?
Dude, it is if I should notate that, if you're hearing some background noise in this podcast, because I'm on my back porch and I live in the woods. So, yeah, that's what that is. And it's hot and humid and it sucks, especially because we were up in Maine, which we were talking about that before we started recording. Man, in Maine, in June, you'd wake up, it'd be 40 degrees. You'd get in the 70s. It wasn't humid.
That's big boy weather right there. I'm into that.
Sheesh, man, because this stuff here, it ain't. You can walk outside your house at 7:30 in the morning and start sweating if you start brisk walking.
Oh yeah, man. Brisk walking.
I ain't brisk walking nowhere.
That's the most Mississippi thing I've heard in a long time.
Brisk walk, baby.
Not fast walking. No, brisk walk.
Brisk walk.
Oh man, that's what them soccer moms do when they're trying to get to a game with the snacks.
Yeah, they do.
Right. So. Let's get into introduce yourselves to everybody.
You want to get it?
Yeah, so we're the Brothers Hunt. I'm Reid, the younger, better looking one, and we got Dan, the older, hairier one.
More successful, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
And basically who we are is just literal brothers that were in the music business and doing that thing, and we're songwriters, so we would be in the room with somebody and we would be in camo, or maybe we would have deer pictures on our phone, or we'd be talking about deer, we'd be talking about turkeys, we'd be talking about fishing. Believe it or not, a lot of people up here, not only do they not understand it, but they don't even really know it exists or how it happens. And so we would always find ourselves within the first 30 minutes or an hour explaining kind of who we were based upon, you know, what hunting season it was, what time of the year it was, and that was always, they were always really interested in that. And even I remember one time, there's a guy, Sonny, he wouldn't mind me telling the story. I didn't know him at the time. He's from Australia. His name's Lindsey Rhymes, and I went to I had an artist or something, and he was kind of trailing off doing his own thing. So I walked to get some lunch. I just took a real quick break, and I walked out to the refrigerator, and I pulled out a little baggie, and it was tenderloin medallions cut up, you know?
Yeah.
And so I had grilled the night before, and so when I broke them out, Lindsay, my buddy, the guy from Australia, was in the break room too, and he was like, "Oh, cookies!" I was like, "No, man,
Cookies.
These ain't cookies, man. This is tenderloin." And he was like, "From what?" And I was like, "A deer." My Australian accent's very bad. I was like, "A deer," and he goes, "Oh, a deer." Yeah, I said, "You want to try one?" He was like, "No. I like my meat from the store." I was like, "Dude." Anyway, he figured it out. He's tried some now, but just everybody getting used to the story of who we are as hunters. And so we just kind of were like, man, we should take this opportunity to kind of, you know, like start an entity. And so we did it on Instagram, and we started, people started seeing it, and artists and friends of ours who are artists and other songwriters saw it and were getting interested, and they started wanting to go on trips with us. And we hooked up with a couple different artists and took them on turkey hunts and deer hunts. And I think they just kind of started understanding that they can kind of trust us, and we won't make them feel stupid regardless of how intermediate or what level they're at. You know what I mean? Because there's all different levels, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of how like the brand, you know, the Brothers Hunt got started. But we started filming and putting out our little YouTube things just because we wanted to show people where we were going, you know, and we're two Southern boys that are trying to figure out the West, you know, and hunting Montana and
how to do it,
and going to Maine, you know, and doing all that stuff, and we started videoing just to show, you know, to show people different places and different hunting styles and cultures, and started putting those together, which turned into kind of our video thing, which evolved into now the brand of what we are and what we do as musicians as well as hunters and brothers, and it just kind of all came together. It was a God thing for sure.
Yeah, it's a really cool mix, man. Because I always like talking to people that found something that they were passionate about and that they love to do, and they just went after it. You know, that's what I like.
Yeah. Well, we even talked about it on the front porch for a hunting camp about 3 years ago, and we were just like, you know, because you talk yourself into something, and you're like, oh man, come on, we don't need it. We're not anybody. Nobody cares about what we have to say. And then, but once you look at like the songwriting career, where you just like laid it all out there in hopes that people, you know, enjoyed it and latched onto it, dude, this is the same thing. Starting a brand or starting to start, you know, something. You just lay out who you are. And if people want to be involved with it, they can. And if people don't, that's fine too. It's no big deal either way, you know?
Yeah. And you kind of have to decide that up front too. Is like, am I going to care what people think about me, or am I not going to care? And are we going to chase this thing, you know, like it is our passion and like we want it to be our job? And
because believe it or not everybody's supportive of your dreams, LP. Not everybody.
This is true. This is true.
They'll try to stomp them out as fast as you can come up with them, and honestly, man, haters are my motivators. You know what I'm saying?
It's something that I've learned, man, and it's like I mean, I'm not trying. I mean, it's not a negative thing. It's just true. It's just to the same point that you're saying. There are some people, I don't know what it is, and it doesn't. It's not like a person specific thing. I think it happens to everybody. If you start finding some sort of success, or you start trying to pursue something that'll make you happy, there's always going to be those people that for some reason are just like, nah, they're just going to have something negative to say about it, or like, no, don't do this. This is a bad idea.
Yeah, you look stupid.
Safe. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, music was the same way. I mean, there was, luckily our family's great. Our dad's a hardcore hunter and fisherman, and he's kind of one that introduced us to that as children. Our granddad hunted. I mean, it's just in our blood, right? So we had a family that was super supportive, regardless of whatever we dreamed up. They were always kind of had our backs. And I think without that, I think that's what develops those guys who or girls or whoever it is that just kind of want to see you fail. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Especially
Like, again, I can remember, like, my family. I remember telling them when I was 10 years old that I wanted to work for Primo someday. And I never got like you should look into something more realistic. They were like, chase what you want to do. Baby,
That's
awesome.
chase what you want to do. Let's, so this is interesting to me. I want some backstory on this if y'all are willing to tell it.
For sure.
When I first met y'all, I knew, I mean, I'm like, again, it was like a year ago when I first talked to y'all. Y'all were songwriters who, around up in Nashville. How did you get there? And not only how did you get there, but how did it even come of, hey, this is what I want to do?
I guess I should probably
go. You go first.
So I'm older than Reid. I'm 4 years older than Reid. I'm 36. And I started playing music when I was, seriously 12, 13. Like, started playing guitar. And I always wrote, right? I always wrote like poems, but I didn't want to be the weird dude that, I played football, man. I couldn't be cutting poems loose. But then I found out that if you put them to song, you could get chicks. And so I started learning how to play guitar so that I could put my words to music. That helped out. I started writing songs in high school. Got in a band, of course, kind of another band. I got in a punk rock band called Freshman 15. We toured North Mississippi and did that thing for a while. And then I got in a country band. Well, me and my buddy Jamie Davis started a band called Soul Gravy, and we played Mississippi State. That's where I went to school.
Yeah, y'all played Starkville, right?
Go Dogs. Yeah, man, we played Ole Miss. Although I can't stand Ole Miss, I made a whole lot of money off them frat boys, so I ain't that mad at them. You know what I'm saying? Then we went to Tuscaloosa. We traveled all around. Nashville started calling. This whole time, Reid he always sang. He'd be doing church specials. What was the one? Who am I? Go for it.
That the Lord of all the earth still up. Can't call my name.
That's enough. Yeah. He would always sing church specials, So he was sneaking into bars and watching us play and everything. And so my band started getting looks in Nashville, and in the process, I learned that you could write songs and you didn't have to go travel. I had already been on the road for 10 years. So I started trying to figure out how to write. I met this guy that worked at Sony. He asked me to cut a demo, which is like, so you take 5 songs you've written and you go cut them with a band in a studio. I borrowed $700 from my granddad. I borrowed $500 from my sister and her husband. I went and cut a demo session. I took him to this guy. He held on to him for 9 months. While he was holding on to him, I was working on the box truck, and I saw softball bats in the corner of his office. And so I asked the secretary where he played softball, found out where he played softball, started umpiring at the place he's played, ran into him. Scheming, dude. You got to be hungry up here.
And while that you wanted it bad.
Yeah. And while that was going on, me and Reid were living on a boat on Percy Priest, and we were just
crappie. We were living on a boat?
Yeah, we lived on a boat for 4 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was all we could afford. It was like $100 a month for me and $100 for him. We had free internet. We catch brim and crappie and catfish off the deck, and we'd eat deer meat. We'd eat deer meat, turkey meat, and crappie. I mean, dude, it was some of the best times of our lives. When you start getting serious with girls, and the houseboat comes along, it don't last very long. So we got publishing deals and separate companies, and Reid writes for 50 Egg and Big Machine, Co-Venture, and I write for Sony.
Wow.
That's kind of the backstory, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of Dan's, and mine's more simple. As a little brother, you always kind of look up to Big Brother and see what I thought I wanted to be an eye doctor, and actually went to UT and did.
I love this story.
And did pre-optometry school, and I was in Tupelo, Mississippi at one of his
Benjamin's.
Joe's. It was Joe's, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the same place. Okay. Yeah.
But it was their band was playing, and I had a couple to drink, you know what I'm saying? And my girlfriend at the time, one that I lost the hunting season before, but girlfriend at the time, she had called and she was like, "Hey, you failed physics again." She was like, "You're not going to get into optometry school." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "What are you going to do?" And I said, "I think I'm moving to Nashville." And she was like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm moving to Nashville." And right then and there, I decided to move to Nashville and thought And I, like Dan
Dude,
said,
we were playing. I remember being like, and then walking up and be like, hey. And I was on stage. I was like, yeah. He's like, I failed physics. I'm moving to Nashville.
so I made the move thinking that I wanted, to do the artist thing, and I love singing, and I hear melodies in my head and all that. So I thought I wanted to run the road and pursue the artist thing, which I was literally on the road one time playing with my band in Texas during deer season, and I called Dan after the show and I was like, hey man, what y'all doing? And he said, we're putting steaks on the grill. And I was like, at hunt camp, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. I think I just want to write songs from now on.
Yeah, he quit. We were at hunting camp the opening day of bow season, and he was like, that's when he quit. He was like, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, enough of this.
I think I just want to stay home and write songs.
I was like, what? He's like, y'all think we had this whole plan together and like songs built up and all that stuff. He's like, if y'all think y'all are going to stay in that camper without me during bow season, you're out of your brain.
Oh, they ain't killing my deer, man. They ain't killing that 10 right there. That's mine.
God, what a story! I love it though, man. And so it's the same thing. Like when I had your boys from Muscadine Bloodline on here, and I got them to tell their backstory.
And we love the boys, man.
They
the real deal.
They good fellas. They real good fellas. But it's funny. Like I say, when you talk to guys that are in a career path that's based on something that they love, there's never once have I heard some kind of like cut and dry story. Like I followed this.
Think it exists, man.
No, and you'll never hear the same one twice. You know, everything, it's so personal, and there's no rhyme or reason to how you get here, how you get a publishing deal, or how you meet the right person. But it does this.
Yeah, but there's so many parallels. To me, there's so many parallels with that and with hunting. And I know you're a hunting podcast, and I'm not trying to just like do this so I'll be cool on your podcast. I'm just saying there really are so many parallels. It's like, dude, if you want something bad enough, right, you're gonna find a way to do it. And that was the way we were with hunting Merriam's in South Dakota. That's the way y'all were with hunting birds in Maine. That's the way we figured out how to elk hunt. We figured out a place to go mule deer hunt, what tags we could draw, point systems in the West. I mean, hunting in Nashville, dude, you know how hard it is to find acreage in Nashville to hunt? There is no acreage. So you find 5-6 acres here with somebody you cut their yard for. Oh, you help a farmer with his fence. He gives you access to his 20. I mean, it's like.
You just got to figure it out, just like you do in the woods.
You have to be passionate about it. And you have to constantly pursue it.
In any hunting situation, if you're alone out there, you're the only one that's got your back. And ain't nobody else going to do it for you. And if you want to be successful at something, like they're saying, like Dan's saying, like, you just gotta throw in, go throw it all in and go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if you've been hunting in the woods very, very much, but as you probably know, them 150s don't just come cruising by because you're out there.
I wish they would sometimes.
Me too.
Oh, it does to everybody else, but it dang sure don't happen to me.
No, it don't work that way. I wish it did.
Yeah.
No, it's fun. No, I see it because I get the same, and I'm sure y'all get questions like this too about y'all's career. I get questions all the time. All of us do. Like, how do you get in the hunting industry? And I'm like, you got to want it. I mean, like you got to want it. And you got to be willing to put yourself out there to a degree. Like you got to bet on yourself. And
oh, absolutely, that's it. Bet on yourself. Absolutely. Have you ever noticed that there's like a small handful of people that'll really go for it, but there's like millions that want to like dip their toe in.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Like there's a million people that want to write songs from their home in another state. They don't want to move here and figure it out. Yeah. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, and I remember people telling me that and me being like, man, there's got to be another way to do it, but there ain't no other way to do it. You get in the mix. You got to get dirty.
You got to be vulnerable.
Yeah, it's like, and I've told this story before. Like the whole deal that springboarded me and being able to contact Primos and having them for there even be a reason for them to hire me is because I went to an unpaid internship in Iowa. Like Mississippi me, at like 20 years old, loaded up a U-Haul on my Chevy S10 and drove 12 hours up to Southeast Iowa and lived off of it was funny because it
What'd you do?
Do what?
What'd you do up there? What was the internship?
So there's a show called Midwest Whitetail.
I know.
Yeah.
Bill Winky.
Oh,
Yep.
Winky. He's a real deal, man.
Big deer, man.
Well, look, man, the year that I was up there was the year that he killed a deer that he called a double G4 buck.
Yeah.
And it scored like 204 or something like that. I can remember. So this is funny. You know,
what does that look like to a small town Mississippi kid?
Well, look, I'll tell you. So
elk.
It looked like I can remember I was filming Aaron Warburton because Aaron worked for Midwest at the time. He's with the Hunting Public now. And I grew up in central Mississippi, man. I'm talking like Pine Rose. If you saw a deer that you might think crest 120 inches, I mean, you may fall out the tree stand from fainting. I mean, that's a giant, right? So it was October the 31st, which is like on the verge of rut right there, right?
Yeah, baby.
And we're on a piece of public ground, and we didn't kill this deer, but Aaron had to tell me. I was filming him, and I remember there was some does, and all of a sudden a doe come running up out of this bottom into this CRP field we were sitting on, and a buck comes out chasing her. And I didn't know at the time, as far as like looking at a deer and knowing what he may score, just no concept of it whatsoever. Yeah, but I see this deer that is bigger than anything I've ever put my eyes on in my whole life. And I'm just filming. I'm just the camera. But I was useless for about 10 seconds because I was just it was like a 160-inch 10-point. And just and again, we all knew that Bill was after that deer. And then when we all got called that he shot him, and we went over there the next day and we saw him. I just remember because he'd had him, it was cold enough that night, he just field dressed him. So the deer was still whole other than, the guts being out.
Sure.
I just remember seeing that thing. And when you see and then get to lay your hands on 204 inches of antlers.
There ain't no telling.
No, I can't imagine.
I can't imagine.
We've seen like been in camp with some 180s and 190s. And they were, remember in Missouri?
80s, yeah.
Or 80s, maybe just 80s. Maybe just 80s.
That's
and man, I'm telling you,
man.
But
not only like up there is their rack big, but those deer, those bodies on those deer up there in Iowa and northern Illinois, dude, they look like dang Mack trucks.
Oh, they're huge. They're huge.
They're 2 times as big as any deer down here.
Yeah, they're huge. There was just thinking about what y'all talking about living in the boat. Like when we were unpaid interns, there was 3 of us in this one little house. And
wait, how did you if you were unpaid, like literally, how did you survive?
So he had, for the interns, he had 2 housing situations set up. So you didn't have to pay rent every month. You just had to.
But you got like eat and stuff.
Oh yeah, look. So I worked 2 jobs that summer and didn't spend anything. I was just saving money, money all I could. Nice. But I still, you got to go 6 months without any kind of pay. So all that money I saved up, when I drove back to Brandon, Mississippi, that bank account was slim. Slim. And but
I bet you were too, from not being able to eat nothing.
Dude, look, we'd kill like a doe or something on some public land up there. We'd go, because honestly, the way those guys do up there, they really don't hunt much until November. Like bow season starts in October, like it does here, but they're like, the rut's in November. We were going and shooting does, and we would live off of that deer because we didn't want to go buy beef or hot dogs or anything. And we went rabbit hunting one time, and we was just doing whatever we had to do because we didn't want to spend money, we were awesome folks.
Shoot, yeah, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Bill's character. That's awesome.
Man. Look, again, like I look back at some of those 2 guys I lived with in that house. I ain't seen them in years, but I still talk to them on the phone, and they was like brothers to me for 6 months,
Cool, you look back at those moments, and those are some of the best moments. I miss those days, man. I miss. There's sometimes I'm sitting in my house and just, God, I wish I was back on the boat for a day, just to be in it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the funniest thing that happened with eating the deer is I'm sure if I say backstrap poppers, y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
I can taste them, dude.
Of course. Well, again, it was like the first deer of the year, and it was a doe. Got the backstraps out of her, and I was like, I'm gonna make some poppers, and they're like, you're gonna do what? I was like, backstrap poppers, and they're like, what are you talking about? Those boys up there, one of them was from Iowa, the other one was from Wisconsin, had never had a bacon wrapped cream cheese jalapeno backstrap off the grill.
I bet you changed their lives that night.
They still AJ, one of the boys that lives, still talks about. They all cook them backstrap poppers now. I turned their little culinary world upside down.
I got the best popper story, man. When I came to Nashville, or when me and Reid came to Nashville, there was a song. So it sounds crooked, and it's really not. But it's like you got to do what you got to do to like get to know people, right? When you first get here, because we didn't know anybody of any importance, really. So one of my buddies, it turns out he's like my brother now, one of my best friends. He was talking to me. He had just given me a ride, and I was riding with him. He was talking about deer meat. He's like, man, I hadn't had deer meat in so long. I was like, dude, we got a freezer full of it. You should bring your wife and come to the boat and have
brand new baby.
And brand new baby, that's right. And have some poppers one night, some backstrap poppers. Oh my gosh, I love those. I hadn't had them in 15 years, dude. You tell me when I'll be there. I was like, I got to go home tomorrow, so I'll be back Friday. Why don't you come over Friday night? I'll bring up some fresh tenderloin. We'll cook it and blah, blah, blah. He's like, dude, plan on it, right? I go home back to Savannah, where I'm from. I lay the tenderloin out, and I leave and left the tenderloin out. I come all the way back to Nashville. He calls me. This is the day before, right? So he calls me. He's like, dude, we're still doing that deer meat, right? And I was like, oh, absolutely. And I walk out to my cooler in the truck. It's not in there. So my dad was working. I was sweating it the whole next day. I was trying to come up. I was like, well, I'll just go get some beef. I'll do it. And they'll never know the difference, right? So my dad calls me at 6 o'clock. And he goes, hey, man. I said, what are you doing? He was like, you'll never believe what I just saw. I said, what'd you see? He said, man, I'm working up here in Henderson, which is about 15 minutes north of Nashville. And he said, I just saw a lady just bust a 6-point right in front of me. I was like, where exactly are you? He was like, well, I'm right here by this walking park in downtown. He said, I couldn't believe it. 6-point just ran out in the middle of the road, messed her car up. He said, I helped her get it out of the road so nobody else got hurt. And I said, well, do you know where that deer is? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, could you point me to it? And he's like, what are you going to do? And I was like, have you got a knife in the truck? And he was like, yeah, I got a Swiss Army knife. I was like, I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hop in the truck, drive to Henderson.
This is 100% true.
Oh, 100% true.
I love it.
I hop in the truck, drive to Hendersonville. I get up there. He's right in front of a food line. I had to drag the deer across a sidewalk to get it out of like the public view. I had to get to a field, and I cut the back straps out of that deer with a like a sidewalk light shining down on me so I could see in the middle of the night. I cut them back straps up. I walked in that food line. I had blood all over my hands. I was like, can I use your restroom? They were just kind of like, yeah, it's back there. Went and cleaned up. Went back to the boat, marinated them things. They got there at 7:30, ate roadkill, and still to this day don't know it.
And
that's great.
Dude, it was fire, too. It was a little young buck, a little fork horn or something, man. It was, dude, it was awesome.
Oh, it was tender then.
Oh, real tender.
Yeah.
Fresh, dude, fresh.
That tops my popper story. That's pretty good.
No, I'm not trying to top it.
I know what it is. That's a better story.
Dude, it was.
Deer get hit. Where's he at?
Dude, we've been writing songs ever since. You know what I mean? He's hung on for them poppers.
That's hilarious.
And now that dude is a full-fledged hunter, man. He bought property, and he's even taught other people how to hunt, man.
That's awesome.
It just goes to show you, man. Just experiencing people sometimes is all you got to do for it to light the fire,
Oh yeah, 100%. How has that happened very often? I mean, like if y'all are around people that don't hunt a lot, do y'all kind of get to introduce them to it much?
Yeah, and it hasn't happened for me like in the music scene, yet. really. But I mean, my friends, you know, we've got a group of friends that come over. We call them the Wang Boys, and they come over every Wednesday, or used to before Corona hit. And we'll get back into it, but we throw wings on the grill and just hang out. And just from them being around us, we've actually in the last couple of years have got property to hunt a 400-acre farm just south of town
with them.
We call it the Wang Boy Farm, and we go out there on opening days now, and we throw up tents and sleep in the back of our trucks and talk around the fire, man. And it's things that they've never, you know, they never got to experience when they were younger, but we did, you know, and now that they're getting to experience, they're starting to get married. And my best buddy, he just went fishing with me the other day, and he was like, man, he's like, I want to do this with my boy. Like, this is what I never did with my dad, but I want to do this with my boy and I was like, dude, ask anybody that went fishing with their dad when they were little, and they'll tell you that those are some of the best days of their life. And that's where you learn so much, because you're isolated to a boat. And, you know, my dad taught me tons and tons of great lessons, just catching a mess of brim, you know, with some crickets. And you don't get those moments, you know, sitting on the couch and watching TV. So yeah, it's becoming more, you know, now that we're farther into the brand and are getting a little bit of publicity here and there, that it's becoming people going, hey man, I want to go hunt with y'all, because not only does it look, you know, I want to experience, you know, harvesting something, but y'all look like y'all have a hell of a time, you know, and it looks fun. And yeah, we're getting to take people.
I think one of the biggest advocates for that, and he wouldn't mind me saying this, but our buddy Luke Combs, he had done a little bit of hunting before he came to Nashville, a little bit of fishing. But, you know, man, until you have somebody that's like really willing to just sit down and talk you through, he wanted to know ethics, right? Sure. Like, he wanted to do it the correct way. He wasn't about just shooting something. He wanted to know how to harvest every piece of meat and put it all. And he just never had anybody really show him, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and if you ain't been taught, how you supposed to know?
Dude, how are you supposed to know, man? If I told you come over here and play Van Halen on this acoustic, you couldn't do it. Why? Because nobody ever showed you to do that, and because Van Halen is a bad son of a bitch, right? And you couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. Somebody would have to show you that. And I mean, you're exactly right. And he was at a place where he wanted to learn. We were already friends and had been writing, and he was really interested. He was asking so many questions. And we got to take him on the turkey hunt and the deer hunts. And then he bought a big property. It's just he got to eat up with it. You know, he
turkey.
His
first big beer.
Started going on his own, calling us, asking questions. And man, it's really turned into
a lifestyle.
Well, a brother. He's turned into a brother.
Yeah. So those are the cool stories to me too, because obviously it's great, you know, introducing kids and all, but I love hearing stories of folks that are like, I guess, you know, older in life, and they just never got the opportunity to.
Yep.
And what y'all were able to do for him, and, you know, y'all had the opportunity to be growing up in that environment, and so y'all got to take him and kind of show him the ropes, and now he's ate up with it.
Absolutely. And, you know, he would do anything to help further the cause, right? He understands it now. And I mean, he's even influenced, and that's the whole thing, right? That's the trickle down thing, right? I think that's the reason that numbers are down, because people our age, I don't know how old are you?
28.
Yeah. People from my age to your age, or even if they're interested in it, they don't know how to ask, right? They don't know, because we're taught that it's weird for a dude, you know, a Southern guy especially, to ask for help towards something, or to not know how to do something, or to not know how to do something correctly, or
especially if it's hunting, you know, because it's like the thing down here. You're supposed to know how to hunt. So guys that they're almost too intimidated to ask, because they don't want to sound like they're, you know, they think they're supposed to know that already, so they're scared to ask questions. And
you start talking about taking something's life, right? You start talking about guns, ammo, loading a gun, unloading a gun. There are some daunting things there, or some things that seem daunting to someone who didn't grow up in it. Dude, if I handed you a 20 gauge a Remington 870 and said, "Hey man," or 12 gauge Remington 870 and said, "Hey dude, unload this thing for me," you would know how to pop them shells out in 10 seconds. But if you hand them to a guy that had never dealt with that, then all of a sudden he's intimidated by that. You've asked him a question, something he feels like he should know how to do, and he doesn't, dude. And sometimes people don't want to go through that. So you have to walk them through tenderly, right? But if someone's willing and they're not going to get their feelings hurt by you knowing a little bit more than them or whatever, you can really, really show somebody how to do it the correct way. And it can become a lifestyle, which is absolutely what happened to Luke. And Luke wasn't no Elmer Fudd. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing out here. You know what I mean? He kind of had a plan, but to know, this is the correct shot. This is the correct shot with a bow. This is mechanical broadheads. This is not mechanical broadheads. You know what I mean? It's like you're walking them through, the ins and outs and the real intricacies of that sport. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, you get, I guess, guys like y'all, guys like me, if you have an interest in hunting, we were so lucky to grow up the way that we did.
Oh
because like you said, there's just so much stuff that's just second nature because you've been doing it for so long. You don't think about it. And when you have guys that are new, you gotta like almost reset yourself. That okay, I got to think about everything that I'm doing to explain to them that. And
all right, dude, let's just do it right. Let's just do it right here. Let's do an intro quiz. If a turkey walks by you and he's got a short beard on him, what is he?
I mean, I'm probably going to shoot him personally, but
he's a Jake.
Yeah, because he's a Jake. Yeah.
Dude, if you're not in the woods, if you didn't grow up in it, you don't know that. Okay, if a deer walks by you and he's a forkhorn, how old's that deer?
He's probably about 1.5 years, maybe 2.5.
Exactly. So once you start, if you've grown up with it, you know that by habit, dude. Where do you put all right, so let's say an 8-point walks out, he looks 5.5 years old. Where do you put that crosshair?
I'm gonna put it. I'll probably put it right behind his shoulder. I might put it on his shoulder if I don't feel like tracking him.
I'm a shoulder shooting son of a gun, dude. I'll blow him out.
See, here's something that I'm not gonna get on a soapbox completely, but I've seen it so many times, and y'all might have too, when it comes to like introducing folks that are new to it, whether it be kids, older people, whoever, and they're excited about it. They're ready to go. They're deer hunting. Okay, we're deer hunting.
Yeah.
And they're on a place. I mean, it ain't like a manicured farm. Like maybe it's just a family place that's 130 acres.
Gotcha.
And they get told, or so a deer walks out, and it is a state legal deer. But and either they don't shoot the deer because the person tells them it's not to because the deer's not old enough, or they shoot a deer. And then they get scolded for it because they didn't shoot the right one.
Buck shaming, dude.
Can't stand it.
Can't stand it. Gets me hot on the back of my neck right now.
Because all right, now me personally, even if I'm in a state where it's legal, I'm probably not going to shoot a Jake.
Sure.
If I have a person that's not been doing it long at all, or they've never killed a turkey, and it's state legal, and that Jake comes in,
bust that thing.
He's going to get dealt with.
Oh, especially if he messes up and gobbles.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that, player. Don't do that.
Talk like a man, get dealt with like one. That's the thing.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of that goes on, and I wish that would go away because I think that's another one of those, just another reason for somebody not to mess with it.
Yeah, it just goes against everything that hunting, is, in its core. It's community. It's, it's personal. It's not. You don't win at it. You're just you have fun. You're in your
experience.
Yeah, in your experiences, and success is different between each hunter. And as long as it's real to you and true to you, and you're having a good time, and that's an animal that you want to, take and harvest and make that memory, man, and tell people about it, dude, pull the trigger.
Have fun with it. That's like one of the best examples is I'm a big fan of dove season, right? Especially down here. And so a guy that worked with us named Ben, he's from Minnesota. And the first dove season where he came down and he kind of saw how everyone did it down here, he's like, man, no one dove hunts like this where I'm from. He's like, dove hunting to y'all is like a whole social event. And it is. Like, there's so much more. Like, the opening weekend of dove season is honestly one of my favorite weekends of the year. And the actual hunting part is just one part of it. Like we have
Right.
a thing. We go over to our buddy's house. We cook out the night before. We stay up late. We tell old stories. We wake up early the next morning. We shoot doves. We come back. We eat breakfast. We watch the Mississippi State football game because that's usually when football season starts back.
Hell, stay.
Not only. But yeah, I get what you're saying, man. And that's why I'm thankful and want to have guys like you on this podcast, because if there's somebody out there that is actively portraying hunting the way that it's supposed to be portrayed, I appreciate them, and I want to give them any kind of light that I can give them. And
Man, thanks for doing
that.
I
Appreciate it. It's funny. We did this year. We we tried to post every day of turkey season, and we started getting a lot of replies from these Nashville people like, man, y'all just aren't killing nothing. We're like, no, these guys don't get it. Like, they think you're supposed to kill every day. It's like they don't realize the grind and how many that the majority of the season, the majority of the hunts, you're not killing, right?
Yeah. Turkey hunting is any kind of hunting. It's a chess game. It's a process of slowly putting a puzzle together.
Absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yeah, man. And I mean, you were talking about like hunts that mean something to you. And when we were living over there on the boat, I'll never forget, I was convinced I was going to turkey hunt that year. I didn't care. We didn't have any property at the time. We didn't have nothing. And I found a small sliver of Army Corps land that was on the lake that we were on. And me and my wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time, went over there one evening and scouted and got a bird to gobble. I went over there a couple mornings later and sat down on a tree and called that bird in and shot him on public ground, on lake public ground, man. And I remember, I mean, dude, that has to go down as one of the top 5 things that ever happened in my life, man.
I mean, you don't know. I mean, and you can't right now. Like, it doesn't matter how big that turkey was, how much you weighed.
No.
If you had a long beard or long spurs, it doesn't matter.
Dude, it was
about your personal success in that moment.
The other one I think about is when me and you were on that Saddleback Ridge at Wayne County. Remember you killed that turkey? And we were walking back, and the sun was out, dude, and it just started raining like crazy. And we didn't have anywhere to go, and it was just soaking us. But we had a turkey on our back, and we were walking the mile back to camp. And, dude, it was just like, I was like, man, this is heaven, man.
And that's happened even on mornings where we ain't killed nothing.
Sure.
And you walk back, and if you're coming out of a stand and see a sunset, man, like you can't, that's what it's about.
Yeah. I got to I took my dad turkey hunting last spring, and especially with the Primo stuff and traveling around and like we do, I don't get to hunt with Pop that much anymore.
Oh, we're the same way.
And took him out, and it was a April morning. Usually Mississippi April, the birds are really starting to act right, and turkeys were. I think we had like 4 different turkeys gobbling, and ended having 2 come in gobbling, and Dad shot and he missed, which was kind of a bummer. But at the same time, I was like, man, it's okay. Because I ain't got to hunt with Dad in a long time. It's not every morning you get to call in 2 turkeys in Mississippi. It's not every morning you got to see the spring come alive and turkeys gobbling like that. It's about the whole process.
No doubt, man.
Like Wilbur told me one time after I missed a turkey, he said, hey, think about it this way. You got to experience the full success of a turkey hunt, and now you ain't got to get your hands dirty. You just go try again.
Absolutely.
We've always said, if you could breathe life back into the animal and send him back into the woods and hunt him all over again, it would be perfect.
Well, I always said that. He never says that because he always misses.
Do I always miss? I got a 10 point.
I
got a 10 point hanging up here that says the difference.
Maybe not.
Man, look, guys, I think I've gone past the allotted time that I said I was
Sorry,
going to
dude. We didn't even hardly get into that.
We're going to have to do another one. We got a lot more to talk about.
That's fine. Y'all are easy to
you come on ours. You come on ours next time.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Look. So, guys, the brothers hunt. They have a podcast. They have an Instagram. These are, if you can't tell from the conversation that was had, these are some interesting, entertaining guys. So definitely look them up.
Good, thanks.
I appreciate it.
We're going to get you that sweatshirt, too, buddy.
Heck yeah, that's right.
I like it's in that mossy oak bottomland, too.
Hey man, see that's another thing you can teach people. Why don't I wear a real tree? You know what I'm saying?
It's easy. It's just why would you when there's
Exactly.
you know what I mean?
100%.
Hey, we appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having us on, dude.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Guys, hope y'all enjoyed it. As always, thank you for listening to Speak the Language podcast.